Hello, and thank you all for joining us for this session. This session is going to be specifically geared towards preparing for the SACSCOC on-site visit with a focus on initial interview preparation sessions for those that might be asked to join us for interviews or to meet and speak with our SACSCOC reviewers. These dates will likely look familiar, but our SACSCOC on-site visit here on campus will occur March 25th through the 28th. For our off-campus instructional sites, we will have reviewers traveling in on that Sunday, March 24th, and visiting the site on the 25th. For those reviewers coming directly to campus, they will fly in and travel on the 25th. Tuesday and Wednesday will be intensive work days for them, where they will be reviewing the quality enhancement plan and meeting with our staff, faculty, and students. Thursday morning will be the exit interview, and then in December 2024 is when we will find out the final results of the affirmation of reaccreditation of our institution. So the purpose of the SACSCOC visit is for our on-site reaffirmation committee to join us and visit Texas A&M University Commerce. They review and validate our compliance with the SACSCOC principles of accreditation. They reviewed the compliance reports that were submitted previously, the compliance certification in September 2023 and the focus report in February 2024. They will tour the campus, they will conduct interviews with faculty, staff, and students and meet with them, and then tour all campus instructional sites. During their time here, they will also review the quality enhancement plan, and we'll have several slides in this presentation that will go over the QEP. However, if you have any questions about the QEP or would like to know more information, Dr. Eric Branscombe is our QEP director and is available to answer those questions and more than happy to talk. So part of what our SACSCOC reviewers will be looking at during their time here on campus are two things. So we talked about those faculty and staff interviews. A lot of those will take place over the Department of Education standards and the principles of accreditation, and our findings and non-compliance from the compliance certification submitted in September for those standards that were found non-compliant. There are 20 different Department of Education standards, and you'll see these on the screen here. They include Standard 5.4, which looks at qualified administrative and academic officers. They include Section 6, which is Standard 6.1, or full-time faculty, Standard 6.2b, or program faculty, and Standard 6.2c, program coordination. They also include Section 8, which is 8.1 and 8.2a, some Section 9, so 9.1 program content, 9.2 program length, and 9.3 general education requirements. Looking at Section 10, 10.2 looks at public information, 10.5 looks at our admissions policies and practices, 10.6 looks at distance and correspondence education, and then 10.7 looks at policies for awarding credit. Section 12 includes 12.1, which are student support services, and 12.4, which is the students' complaints. Section 13 includes 13.6, which is federal and state responsibilities and reporting, and 13.7, which is physical resources on campus. Finally, we conclude with Section 14. 14.1 is our publication of accreditation status, and that refers to our SACSCOC accreditation. 14.3, which is a comprehensive institutional review, and this looks at all of these different Department of Education standards as they apply to our institution and for our distance education sites. And then 14.4, representation to other agencies. And these are specifically accreditation agencies that are recognized by the Department of Education, which for us is, I believe, NASEM, NASED, and CCNE. We had 18 findings of non-compliance from the compliance certification. These included Standard 2.1, or institutional mission, Standard 3.1b, or coursework for degrees, Standard 4.2g, or board self-evaluation, and that would be referring to the Texas A&M University System Board of Regents. 5.4, qualified administrative academic officers. Again, you'll see some overlap between our Department of Education standards and our findings of non-compliance in Section 6. So this adds Standard 6.2a, or faculty qualifications, which is where they review our faculty roster. It also includes 6.2b and 6.2c, which are Department of Education standards, and then it adds Standard 6.3, faculty employment, and 6.4, academic freedom. Again, we have our section 8. So 8.2a is student outcomes for educational programs, and 8.2b, student outcomes for general education. In section 10, we have our admission policies and practices, which is standard 10.5. We have distance and correspondence education, which is standard 10.6. And then standard 10.8, which is evaluating and awarding external academic credit. And then our final findings in non-compliance were in section 13, 13.2 financial documents, 13.6 federal and state responsibilities, 13.7 physical resources, and 13.8 institutional environment. And that looks at our institutional environment here on the main campus, as well as our institutional environment at our approved off-campus instructional sites. This leads us to a combined count of 30 different standards for review, so that our Department of Education standards and our compliance standards or findings in non-compliance if they were not part of those DOE standards. And so I won't take you extensively through all of those since we just looked at them, but this is a complete list of the standards that that they will be reviewing and interested in. Now, are they likely to ask about all of these on campus? Probably not, because oftentimes if an off-campus instructional or if an on-campus review committee finds significant evidence for compliance with DOE standards, they may not ask about them or interview them when they're here on campus. So there is a chance that maybe, for instance, standard 12.1 or 12.4, since they were not found out of compliance, and we wrote strong, narratives for those, that they may not interview or want to hear about those when they're here on campus, or speak to someone about those specifically. That isn't a guarantee, but we will find out soon which specific standards they would like to meet with us on. So when we're looking at our on-site preparation, please keep in mind that our on-site reaffirmation committee members are professional colleagues. These will be faculty, administrators, leaders, and staff members from other colleges and institutions within the Southern region. This is really our opportunity to showcase A&M Commerce, to tell these people or these individuals who are visiting us on campus what we excel at, what our highlights are, and the areas that we are working on strengthening to support our students. Again, campus participants in these conversations will be identified by a SACSCOC committee, and they'll be invited to attend those orientation meetings, as well as the specific times for those interviews and conversations during the March 25th through 28th dates. We do ask that you review the A&M Commerce Quality Enhancement Plan, which is titled Foundation for Your Future, as well as principles related specifically to your work or your work here on campus. Speaking of the QEP, our QEP has 3 phases that are important to remember. Phase 1 is the foundation phase. And so at this phase, we will work to provide students with a solid career foundation as they begin college. Phase 2 is the framework phase. This builds upon the solid foundation that was established in phase 1 with a framework that provides students with the skills, content, and competencies for a successful future and to prepare students for the possibility of a plan B. So for instance, if you come to campus knowing that you want to be a music teacher, that's all you've ever wanted to do, and you start taking your music education classes, and then you finally get into the classroom teaching portion and realize that you actually don't enjoy working with maybe elementary students or high school students that much. And so you want to be able to use those credits that you worked so hard to obtain, but maybe pivot in your career, what you want your career outcomes to be. The framework phase will help provide students with the opportunity and the time to explore those options. The final phase for the QEP is the capstone phase, and this is built to launch students successfully into their career as a synthesis of prior learning in the 2 prior phases. So again, the QEP is titled Foundation for Your Future. A QEP is required for every SACSCOC institution, and it identifies key issues emerging from institutional assessment and focuses on student learning outcomes and/or the environment supporting student learning and accomplishing the mission of the institution. As I mentioned before, our QEP director is Dr. Eric Branscombe. So we have our QEP logo over here. And then this First and Proud logo that's here is included because there will be a specific data collection and analysis focus on first generation students within the QEP. So the work and the phases and the classes of the QEP are open to all students, either on campus, off campus, online, graduate, undergraduate. students who want to engage in this, we do anticipate that will probably primarily be undergraduate students, but it's open to all students. But there will be a focused data collection and analysis on first-gen students. So a little bit more information about the phases. Phase 1, for the curricular portions, we're looking at including CID 1300 and 2301, as well as other general education courses at the undergraduate level. We're looking at embedding or incorporating career orientation courses that begin kind of in those lower or upper level major specific courses. Looking at having 2 assessments offered for students, so a career survey titled Focus 2 with an associated reflection essay that would be assessed, and then the development of a career portfolio. Activities at this stage would include career fairs and other events. Phase 2, again, we're looking at courses, and now we've kind of worked up to mid-level courses in the major that are still career focused. The assessments will include career-oriented key assessments such as that measure skills, knowledge, and competencies. When we're looking at those types of demonstration of skill from students that include maybe micro internships, clinicals, student teaching, internships, that type of work. The activities here will include career support services and then continue to develop the career portfolio. In phase 3 of this capstone phase, we're looking at having capstone or final encounter courses or synthesis courses that are embedded within the major. And so all these majors would be spread across the campus. There is not any one college kind of carrying this, but it is equally applicable to all students across campus. The assessments include capstone experiences such as internships and clinical teaching that we discussed earlier, along with other experiences, and the completion of the career portfolio through Skills First. Activities in phase 3 will include continued career fairs, mock interviews offered through Forage, and then exploration and utilization of HireLine and LinkedIn for hiring. Additional information around the QEP. Again, we're looking at embedding this in courses in every major, so across all the colleges and the university. There's a consideration of a career-ready QEP non-academic micro-credential, so this would not bear academic credit, but it would exemplify that students have gone through each of these competencies or understand the competencies that prepare them to be career-ready. Those non-curricular activities that were discussed will primarily be offered through the Office of Student Career Preparedness with Arthur Lumsey. Again, if you have not had the chance to speak with Arthur, I definitely encourage you to. He's a great guy. As I mentioned before, we have a focus group for that data collection analysis, and we call them 2FTFG. That's that first-time, first-gen student for that student body that kind of focuses on that data analysis. And then in fall 2023, a mentorship survey was sent out to students, faculty, and staff, trying to assess the interest in a first-generation mentorship program. So all of that was about the QEP and some basic information over the QEP. When we transition to looking at working specifically with the committee that will be here on campus, something that is very important to keep in mind above and beyond being prepared, being familiar with the QEP, reading the compliance certification and the focus report and that type of stuff, is to operate with integrity in all matters related to SACSCOC. So principle 1 of accreditation is actually the integrity principle. And it is something that we do not respond to in our compliance certification because we do not mark ourselves as acting with integrity, but we are found by reviewers to be acting with integrity. So they mark us as compliant or non-compliant on standard 1, which we do not do, which we do not respond to, pardon me. We do operate and act with integrity at the institution. Again, a specific group of individuals will be scheduled for interviews or those conversations on Tuesday and Wednesday, March 26th and 27th. We ask that you wear your A&M Commerce name tag. If you don't have one, this may be an excellent opportunity to order one, or you can let my office know and we'll make you a temporary one for that time. If you are approached by a committee member, maybe outside of your interviews, or if they have questions, absolutely be friendly, talk with them, let them kind of ask questions or explore, what they're interested in, but also we ask that you be aware of their time constraints and understand that their focus here is on their work and accreditation. So if they approach you, please feel free to chat with them, but again, please, just be cognizant of the other constraints on their time. During those interviews or conversations, please answer only the questions that are asked. Please do not make assumptions or guess during the interviews, or draw in unrelated information. If you don't know the answer to a question, it's perfectly all right to let them know that you do not know the answer to that question. You can refer the team member to Dr. Ricky Dobbs or myself, Allison Soder, for further information, and we'll do our best to get it taken care of. During the time that they're on campus, if a resource, if your time, if information that you hold is requested, it is an all hands on deck situation. We will work together to take care of the request or whatever is needed as quickly as possible, but we would not be able to do that without you. So our institutional mission statement is educate, discover, achieve. If they do ask during the meetings what our mission statement is, this is what our response will be: educate, discover, achieve. When we look at the on-campus interviews by committee, again, we just ask that you keep your schedules flexible as possible in case you're called to interviews. If you are asked to join us, if you have any kind of documentation that might be related, such as evaluations or MOUs or any kind of curriculum reviews, please feel free to bring those with you and bring copies, and that might head off an additional request. We ask that you also be prepared to answer hard questions, and these aren't necessarily going to be questions about like how many pennies does it take to reach the top of the Eiffel Tower, but there are going to be questions exploring your experience here at Ann Commerce. So it might be helpful to take some time to do self-reflection prior to these meetings. The areas that our SACSCOC reviewers are most likely to investigate include the QEP. This includes meeting with different people and areas across the campus to see how the quality enhancement plan is going and how it's working to move our university forward. They may also be interested in speaking about assessment, and so they would maybe want to meet with program coordinators and those charged with academic assessment especially, or our undergraduate core assessment on campus. And then any lingering compliance issues. So going back to that slide that I presented that had our findings of non-compliance, this would include academic assessment, faculty credentials, admission policy, academic credit and review, or those types of items. So these questions here are questions that might come up or that you might have yourself, and so we're putting them in the slide so that they're available for you in the recording in the slide set afterwards. So if you're not familiar with SACSCOC, it is the acronym for the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges. They accredit our institution to offer degrees at the baccalaureate, master's, and doctoral level. The QEP, or Quality Enhancement Plan, is a 5-year improvement project identified through institution-wide processes that focuses on improving student learning outcomes. It also focuses on improving the student experience. And so our QEP is Foundation for Your Future, and it focuses on career management, career preparedness for our students. What is the SACSCOC Visiting Committee, or the On-Site Committee? The on-site visiting committee consists of 9 to 10 people. We will have 10 individuals here on our campus from universities and colleges in the Southern region who will visit and examine all aspects of our operations. But again, keep in mind that these are colleagues. They want to see us succeed. They are not here to get us in trouble, but there are things that they feel are not maybe in the best service of our students. They will be brought up in an opportunity for us to respond to and improve on. So as we are facing potential, these conversations or potential interviews, some questions to consider that you might be asked specific to the mission of the institution at SACSCOC is: how clear is the mission or vision of the university? Can you tell me, or can you tell the reviewer, what that mission or vision is in your own words? So we would want to share a bit about the mission statement and then be able to articulate what it means to you or your work here on campus. Did you or your department have an opportunity to provide input for the compliance certification self-study? We had individuals from all across campus. We had 14 different subcommittees that worked on the self-study that were comprised of faculty and staff, leadership, as well as those who worked more directly with students in the classroom or in the staff setting that did work on the compliance certification. If you did not have the opportunity to directly provide input, someone in your area or your department definitely did have the opportunity to work on the self-study with us. What is SACSCOC? As we covered in the earlier slide, it is our regional accreditor. What does SACSCOC do? They accredit our institution to offer baccalaureate, master's, and doctoral degrees. And accreditation also is very important for our students who graduate, who might go on to higher education opportunities that require graduation from an accredited institution or other licensure or certification opportunities. Accreditation also ensures that we are able to receive federal funds and participate in Title IX. What must a university or college do to be accredited, re-accredited? We demonstrate compliance with the principles of accreditation and undergo the peer review process by submitting for review our compliance certification focus report, and then working with our SACSCOC team at the on-site review. And why is accreditation important to students? As I mentioned earlier, when we we're talking about what does SACSCOC do, accreditation of an institution is incredibly important to students because it not only reflects on the institution that they are attending, but it also impacts their future opportunities for other educational focuses or licensure or certification exams. It also impacts their ability to receive scholarships and our ability to offer them scholarships. When we look next at questions to consider for institutional effectiveness, these will largely be centered around assessment processes. These may be a little bit more self-reflective or unique to your own program or unit, department, whatever that may be. So they might ask to what extent and what ways does the institution demonstrate that it uses the results of its planning and evaluation efforts. And this would be a good opportunity to talk about meetings that are held to discuss the findings of surveys, or the findings of curricular changes, test results, whatever that might be, as you are looking at your institutional effectiveness data that is submitted to Nuventive. When you are analyzing that data and deciding on those next steps or what to do with it, that is an excellent opportunity to talk about the assessment process that is unique to your own department or division. How are planning and evaluation used in your department or unit to guide daily practices? This would be a good opportunity to talk about if you have a strategic plan within your college or division and talk about how that guides processes as you are using student evaluation data, student assessment results, maybe satisfaction surveys, any of that data that you collect as part of your evaluation processes. When you're using that to guide or make decisions or make those database decisions, that is how you are using the planning and evaluation data to guide those practices. So talking about things that you do with what you learned from your evaluation would be a really good jumping off point for that question. Pardon me. Does the institution and its academic programs or support units have stated goals or expected learning outcomes that reflect a direct relationship to the statement of purpose or mission? So all of our academic programs have student learning outcomes. This would be a good opportunity to discuss those student learning outcomes for your program in their alignment with your college mission, college strategic plan, the university mission, educate, discover, achieve, and elements of the university strategic plan. Are there clear and documented examples of changes made to any program or policy as a result of assessment or other effectiveness activity? At the institutional level, we do look at this data to guide our own institutional effectiveness processes and how we interact with our IE authors and IE reviewers. At the department or division level, which you might talk about is the types of changes that you have made in reaction to findings from, as I said, student learning data, survey or satisfaction results, any kind of feedback, or any kind of changes that were made based off findings from your Nuventive discussions. When we look at questions to consider in planning, you might share with them the mission statement for your organizational unit or academic department. You might share with them specific strategic goals that your unit's pursuing at the time, or their alignment with the institutional strategic plan, strategic goals. You could share with them how your unit evaluates achievement of those goals to ensure they're accomplishing their intended outcome, the type of data that's collected, how it's collected, where that's housed, and how it's used. You might be able to show them a current policy or procedure manual for your unit if you have one, especially if you are a unit that has some kind of SOP or federally required documentation for students or faculty and staff. That would be a really good resource to have handy and have to share with our reviewers. Do you have access to and can you share with them the minutes of administrative committees, councils, etc., to document where they're addressing matters of institutional effectiveness. These might be meeting minutes from your own department or unit, where you record and discuss institutional effectiveness and finding of data. And so that may be something that you just start thinking through or pulling together ahead of those meetings. And it might serve as a good refresher of some of the recent changes or plans that have come out of those discussions as well. For our faculty, they will be interested in your experience as a faculty member on campus. If you've needed to access support services or help your student access those support services, what was that experience like? How did y'all know where to go? What kind of provision or what kind of support was provided? And what was the experience within that search? As a faculty member, they may be interested in a current and up-to-date job description for your position, discussion of how work performance is evaluated and what those criteria or expectations are and how they're communicated. You might want to know any limitations or challenges that you have encountered at A&M Commerce and how you have overcome those or how support was provided to overcome them. They may be interested in having a discussion over how your work as a faculty member promotes the mission of the institution and supports our students and our student learning. They would be potentially interested in knowing the responsibilities of full-time faculty members and are there sufficient resources for carrying out those functions within academic programs? And so as a faculty member, in addition to your time in the classroom, what other work or committees or councils are you part of that help support the institution? And then what is the role of full-time faculty in program oversight and supervision? Let me stress again that these questions are neither exact nor exhaustive, but are simply some kind of some sample questions or items that may be helpful to begin thinking through as you're preparing for these interviews. Our staff and our student support staff, they'll probably be relatively similar, but with a different twist. They might want to see a current or up-to-date job description. Again, how is work performance evaluated? What are those criteria? How is that communicated? Describe any challenges in your work here at the institution. How does the institution's organizational structure affect delivery of academic and student support programs, services, and activities? How do the academic and student support programs and services effectively promote the mission of the institution? So I think you're beginning to see a theme throughout these questions. It's not only how does it apply to you as an individual, but also how do you integrate within the larger purpose and mission of the institution and support students. For our off-campus instructional sites, I won't go through these exhaustively as we've done specific off-campus instructional site sessions, but they'll be largely, focused on wanting to know about support services provided off-campus for our students and the communication and integration of those services. If you have had a student on an off-campus site need access tutoring services, library, instructional support services, student discipline, anything like that, they would also be interested in knowing what that process has been like or how that information was communicated. We have a large number of available resources. So on our SACSCOC reaffirmation webpage, we have the institutional on-site visit handbook that has a lot of great information in it. We have this slide set as well as other slide sets and video trainings. And as other training resources are created, they are added there as well. We will be offering interview preparation sessions such as this, and is specifically geared towards certain principles of accreditation. So, Section 14, Section 13, that type of stuff. And then a few other general university informational sessions. If you are interested from SACSCOC, they do have a handbook for institutions seeking reaffirmation. That is a handbook that goes over the large oversight process of reaffirmation. There's the principles of accreditation and its associated resource manual. There's also the quality enhancement plan policy, and then the rubric for the review of the quality enhancement plan. On the SACSCOC reaffirmation page under institutional resources, which you'll see kind of mid-screen there, that's where those resources will be added as they're created. So thank you all so much for your time today. Our successful reaffirmation is due to your everyday efforts and your everyday work. If you have any questions or if you would like to address anything specific to your department or your division, please feel free to put it in the chat or message me privately afterwards. But thank you all again so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.